Welcome to the PRINCE2 Practitioner Examination. This is sample exam questions, paper 1. A little bit about One World Training. We are a global training, business simulation, and training company. And we have offices in the US, the UK, the Netherlands, and other parts of the world. We provide training in IT, business management, project management, etc. And we deliver trainings in different ways. We provide classroom-based training, self-paced, etc. And we are an authorized training center endorsed by leading global professional bodies. And a few of our endorsements are on this particular slide. Now, the practitioner examination, you would be exposed to 70 questions, and each question is worth 1 mark. There's only one correct answer per question. You need to answer 42 questions correctly to pass the exam, and you have 2 hours and 30 minutes to complete this examination. And no other material is allowed other than the exam paper itself. Now, I'll kind of read through the sample question papers and I'll read out the answer and it will give you the rationale for the answers. Now, if you would like to think about the options, what you could do is you could just pause the video and think about the right option and then play the video back, and that will really help you take your own time to reflect on the questions. So let's start with question number 1. Project is in the startup or project process. The chair of the user group has advised that not everyone in the groups affected by discrimination, discrimination will have access to digital media, so that all homeless people know how to report discriminatory incidents. The contractor project manager has recommended that non-digital methods of communication also be included as a part of the project. So which principle is being applied and why? In questions like these, you could narrow down the answer to a particular principle. When we read the question, the question seems to be focusing more on focus on products. So you could kind of narrow down an A and B and rule out C and D. And with an A and B, the right answer is A. Focus on products, because the contractor project manager should identify the products needed to deliver the campaign successfully. Let's move on to question number 2. The executive asks the contractor project manager to implement the chosen option during stage 3 using an iterative incremental delivery approach. This approach will allow feedback to be gathered as the campaign is expanded and rolled out. This will be a new way of working for Now BU. As a result, the contractor project manager will undertake the role of agile coach during the stage to assist in the use of trials and focus groups. How well does it apply the tailor to suit the project principle and why? Now, the first 2 options are it applies well, and C and D, they apply poorly. Now, reading the context, you would be directed to the thought that it kind of applies really well. And out of the 2 options, A and B, A is the right answer. It applies well because an additional role of agile coach should be appointed to advise on how to use PRINCE2 alongside agile techniques. Question number 3. The project management maturity of Now BU is very low, with no standardized processes or templates. Previous projects have relied heavily on the expertise of Charity M that delivers advertising campaigns on behalf of Now BU. But Charity M does not follow a recognized project management method. As a result, the contractor project manager has been asked to perform the role of a coach to the newly appointed project manager from the beginning of stage 2 and throughout the project. Is this an appropriate application of the tailor to suit the project principle and why? Now, from the initial assessment, it is a right application. And the correct answer is A, because the contractor project manager should be given a role to pass on their skills to the project team for the benefit of this and future projects. Moving on to question number 4. Chief Finance Officer is hosting a pre-project workshop with a range of people from the budget ecosystem, including the chair of the user group, director of campaigns, and the police liaison officer, as well as the marketing agency director. The purpose of this workshop is to understand how the project is likely to contribute towards achieving the objectives of all those involved in analyzing options and delivering the chosen option for the campaign. Now, why is this a good application of the ensure continued business justification principle? And the correct answer is A, because the parties involved in delivering the campaign should balance the project's contribution to objectives against the costs and risks at the start of the project itself. The next one, the project is in the starting of a project process, the first process. The contracted project manager has recognized that the campaign against discrimination project has a short timeline and is being delivered in 3 stages. Based on their work on the last project for another NGO, they have recommended that work to analyze options should start during the initiation stage rather than stage 2. They believe this will save time for the project. Is this an appropriate application of the learn from experience principle, and why? And the answer is yes, because experiences from past projects should be reviewed when starting up a project process, which is one of the key activities of starting up a project process. Number 6, the project is approaching the end of the initiating a project process. And the CFO has secured funding for the project from a few major donors. The CFO will continue to have one-on-one contact with these major donors throughout the project to inform them of progress and how the chosen campaign option will support Now BU's objectives. Which principle is being directed by the Chief Financial Officer when meeting regularly with the donors, and why? And the answer is A, define roles, responsibilities, and relationships, because the CFO should build relationships with these major donors throughout the project. Question number 7. Now BU runs consecutive fundraising campaigns lasting approximately 8 weeks each. The success of these campaigns determines the funds available to the organization for the coming months. During the initiating a project process, the project manager is preparing the project plan for the campaign against discrimination project. The PM has consulted the CFO, who has recommended that the stage ends should coincide with the ends of these Now BU fundraising campaigns. This is to allow the funding of the project to be reviewed based on donations made to Now BU during the previous campaign period. Is this an appropriate application of the manage by stage principle, and why? It seems to be a right application, and the correct answer is B. Yes, because the PM should plan the stage ends to take into account the influence that the fundraising campaigns will have on the project finances. Number 8, the project is starting up a project process, and the new PM has been appointed. They have asked a trainee to gather the high-level requirements because the trainee has become a PRINCE2 practitioner. The PM wants them to gain some practical experience, and they are the only member of the project team available for this task. However, no progress has been made on this task due to the trainee's inexperience. The PM has asked the contractor project manager to perform this task instead, with the trainee shadowing them to gain experience. Is this solution an appropriate way to leading successful teams according to the people element, and why? It seems to be an appropriate way, and the correct answer is B. Yes, because the trainee's competency gap should be addressed by shifting responsibility to the contractor project manager while upskilling the trainee. The next one, question number 9. Some of the project team members are based at the head office, but most of them work from home at least a few days a week, in line with Now BU's working practices. The project manager has organized a dedicated project meeting room and has asked team members to attend the office every day to promote social cohesion and information sharing. This has been met with resistance. One project team member has been complained to the CEO of Now BU. Is this an appropriate way of leading successful teams according to the people element, and why? It doesn't seem to be an appropriate application, and the correct answer is C. No, because the project manager should organize specific co-location days for the remote team members to build relationships. Number 10, the project is in the initiating a project process. Now, if you recollect the previous questions, they would kind of ask you questions on principles, and then questions on starting up a project, and then the next set of questions are initiating a project process. So they would kind of take you through a sequence of processes and practices within the practitioner exam. The project is initiating a project process. The PM has held a stakeholder analysis workshop with the project team to produce the comms management approach. At the workshop, all the project team members were identified as stakeholders, and their communication needs were discussed. No other stakeholders were identified, but the project manager expects them to make themselves known as the project continues. The project manager drafted the comms management approach ready for submission to the project board. Is this an appropriate application of leading successful change according to the people element, and why? It doesn't seem to be an appropriate application. And the correct answer is no, because the PM should have identified additional stakeholders, including support groups, who influence the campaign requirements and options. Question number 11. The project is in stage 3. The issue management approach requires a new issue form to be completed in order to raise an issue to the PM. On many occasions, team members have not used the new issue form and have emailed the project manager instead, as it is easier. Feedback from the project team has revealed that they find the form difficult to complete, with too much detail being required. The PM has simplified the form and has agreed the project support will complete the form based on an email if required. Is this an appropriate application of leading successful change according to the people element, and why? It seems to be a right application, and the correct answer is A, because the project manager should realign ways of working to the emerging project culture based on feedback from the project team. Number 12, one of the graduate trainees was appointed as PM during the initiation stage. At the beginning of the project, the new project manager was reporting on progress every week to the board. However, the project is now in stage 2. The requirements gathering have been completed on time and to budget, and the option analysis is progressing well. As a result, the board has agreed that highlight reports should be produced every 2 weeks, and the cost and the time tolerances for the stage has been relaxed. This should empower the project manager to make more decisions. Which principle is being applied by this example of people and the relationship central to the PRINCE2 method? And the correct answer is managed by exception. The next one, discrimination against marginalized groups, in particular the homeless and refugees, is growing at a concerning rate. Under which heading of the change management approach should this information be recorded? It should be within A, characteristics of the current state. Question number 14, 15, and 16. Here are the 3 statements related to the business case for the project. So we've got 3 statements on the left side of the column, and another series of headings on the right side. So you've got to kind of map the options 14, 15, and 16 to a relevant heading in the business case document. For example, 14, the project is at the end of stage 2, and after a review, it is now anticipated there will be a 1-month delay. The project will now take 7 months to complete. So this one has got some ideas pertaining to time, and you kind of map it to C. So the answer for 14 is C. 15, there has been an increase in reporting incidents relating to discrimination against the homeless and refugees. And this one seems to be the reason why we are undertaking the project. So you can map 15 to A, reason. Number 16, funding will be a mix of both public sector and private sector donations. So this has got to do with money, and therefore you map it to cost, which is D. So you have the answers over here with a detailed description of the answers. So you could just pause the video if you need a detailed rationale pertaining to each of the options. Number 17, the executive has decided to treat stage 2 as a separate feasibility project with its own business case. The output from this project will be high-level requirements and the recommended option. Project manager has documented the following benefits in the business case for the feasibility study project. 10% increase in donations received from existing individual donors and donor organizations. Is documenting this as a benefit of the feasibility study project, an appropriate application of the business case practice, and why? And the correct answer is no, it's not, because the output of the feasibility study project will be recommended option that will not result in the required outcomes to realize the stated benefits. Number 18, during the starting of a project process, the executor decided that it would waste time and effort to produce a business case during stage 1. This is because the project team will not have sufficient information to determine whether the multi-channel campaign is desirable, viable, and achievable until the options analysis has been completed during stage 2. Is this an appropriate application of the business case practice, and why? It is not, and because the executor should establish the business justification for the campaign against discrimination project in the initiation stage. Now we've got a series of questions on the organizing theme, organizing practice rather. Here are 3 roles related to the Now BU project. Which individual, A to F, would be appropriate for each role according to organizing practice? Choose only one individual for each role. Each individual can be used once, more than once, and not at all. 19, project manager. The right answer would be B, graduate trainees. So according to the, if you look into the scenario given to you, along with the sample exams, according to the additional information related to the graduate trainees, the first 4 trainees will reach the end of their 2-year training program, right, in 2 months' time, and decision needs to be taken as to whether they will be offered ongoing roles with Now BU. All have received PRINCE2 training. So according to the organizing practice, project managers are responsible for day-to-day management of a project. This includes the need to ensure that the project risks are being identified, assessed, and controlled throughout the project. So the answer for 19 is B. The answer for 20 is C. Project executive will be the chief finance officer. And the answer for 21, senior supplier, would be D, marketing agency director. So here we have detailed explanations on this particular slide.